GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And good afternoon, good evening, whatever happens to be, wherever it happens to be, or whatever you happen to be listening to this. Welcome to our Daily Gun Show. Come be live every weeknight at midnight Eastern. And we talk about guns. And on Wednesdays, we talk about what's been happening for the week. Got our co-host here, calming down for the show, maybe a little bit, maybe not. And we'll be getting the screen going here. We'll be taking a look at what we've got in the description of this video here. That's our norm for Saturdays. So we're going to be taking a look at that over on Substack. We just threw a link out there for that, I thought. Where did I post those links? Oh, maybe I put them in Gizzard's chat and I wasn't even paying attention. All right. So Wesley is saying, did not meet you at CCGW. You mean when Cape Gunworks was on earlier today? And then waiting for Crump, but no announcement today, so I don't know what that's about either. But what we do is take a look at the week and... Okay, you're getting to be too noisy, I think. We're putting them down. He hears the intro music, and then he wants to come over here. Or he hears me getting ready. He wants to come over here, and then he makes a bunch of noise. So as we get everything together here, we go live on Fridays and look back at the week. And it's kind of dependent on how much time I have to look back. So we want to say thanks to our Patreons who give us time to work on these projects, including this weekly wrap-up. So we definitely put in an effort each week. But how in-depth we can go depends on how much stuff is happening, both in real life and in 2A, right? So we post this information here on the YouTube video that you might be watching right now, or on the podcast you might be listening to, or if you're looking at the screen on the Substack blog. We also put this stuff on our Patreon. Our Patreon is where our subscribers get like essentially our blog. Everything that we do that's of value gets posted there and then on other places. Because we do a lot more than what we're just doing on YouTube or just doing with the podcast or just doing in the newsletter, etc. So the hub of all of that is our website, and then Patreon is the interface with that. We also have a newsletter, so if you like that format or if that works for you as an archive, what we try to do is archive each week a summary of what's been going on. So if you like that in a newsletter, you can subscribe to that as well. It's free. It does cost money on our end, so even though it's free to send out, the list gets bigger and it starts to cost more as it gets bigger. So it's there, but don't just join it for no reason. But if you want to join it, you want to have a emailed version of this each week, then feel free. Then we got our Substack. That's another place you can, I guess, get a version of this. Essentially what we'll be looking at right here. I think that does get emailed to you. At least a version of it gets emailed to you. So that might be something we looked at for the newsletter, actually, going forward. I'm thinking about it. We post stuff on Instagram, and on Wednesdays, we can take a look at the week and what was focused on Second Amendment over on Instagram. And, of course, just for clarification, for anybody that doesn't pay attention, our my definition of 2A is stuff that's actually focused on what the Second Amendment protects. It's not as broad as all gun-related things. So I know there's lots of channels that like gun stuff, and I certainly don't mind gun stuff, but I don't have a passion for looking at the intricacies of all the new guns that are coming out, or talking all about every type of training or anything, or hating on training like a lot of people like to do. So since I'm not interested in news of the day, we're focused on 2A, the actual nuts and bolts of how we get rid of the conversation that we have to have, because there's too many people that make money on that conversation, honestly. They make their livelihoods on that conversation. We could be ending the conversation and moving on to other things. We'll be better off. So let's talk about news of the week. I don't know why my headings didn't work. That one worked. And then we'll talk about stuff that is focused on 2A that happened this week. Then we'll talk about some gun-related stuff. And then we'll talk about some podcasts and some radio shows that we listen to. And we'll wrap it up with the stuff that we posted. And I didn't get a chance to put the calendar in here, but depending on what time it is at the end of all that, we'll take a look at what's coming up in our gun history and on the horizon, because there is a bunch of good gun stuff that's happening. Little dude, what's your problem, man? You got water? And you were just up here, and you were just having a spasm about getting down. So he wants it both ways. He wants everything. When am I visiting Toby? I have no idea when I'll be able to get to Massachusetts. No time soon, that's for sure. About a man bag, I guess I don't know about that. Somebody's making a new backpack or something, or a messenger bag. I don't know what a man bag would be. One of them sling bags, maybe. Buddy, what do you want? All right, I think he needs to go outside. I probably should have done that before the show, I guess. So I guess what we'll do is I'm going to play a video from our Blast from the Past series, because I'm almost positive this is I desperately need to go potty type of situation. So, that happens. There's a lot of people out there that would scorn me for even attempting to do any kind of a gun-related thing with a dog around, because they hate dogs so much, and they're so passionate about the Second Amendment they can't even be bothered by an animal. So I'm not like that. I'm a horrible person that brings a dog around. So because of that, you're going to have to watch this video about my collection. And I'll take this dog, and if he doesn't go potty, you'll get to watch a dog get whooped for interrupting an important podcast like this. Are you kidding me? I can't even skip my own commercial. They're giving me a commercial on my own show, my own video, and I can't skip it. Okay, here we go. So you get to watch this for a little bit. It shouldn't take this long to come back.
If you watched our video on the Ring of Fire firearms, you know that in 1970, George Jennings saw a gap in the market that was created by the 1968 Gun Control Act. The GCA banned the importation of small and inexpensive pocket pistols. So George decided to change his aerospace parts manufacturing company into a firearms manufacturer. He invented the 25 caliber P25 based on Browning's vest pocket pistol, and started what would become a very large lineage of inexpensive pistols that are the focus of many anti-gun people, and unfortunately many pro-gun people. And for lots of these reasons, as I started to research these, I became more and more interested and eager to collect them. because there's so many, I decided to stick with George Jennings' son Bruce's side of the tree and stick with the 22 calibers, which seem to be the easiest to acquire and the least expensive. We're going to talk about my collection as well as the reasons why I collect them. So let's take a look. Now we're looking at basically 11 flavors of the J22, and I believe a very complete collection. I'm missing one over here we'll talk about when we get to it. But let's go around and talk about the various pistols, and in the process, we'll explain some of the reasons why I collect them. Let's start out with the granddaddy, the P25. This is a 25 ACP. Now this one's made at the Baldwin Park factory, and that only lasted for about 3 years. Then they moved to City of Industry. The reason that's important is that's where the first J22 comes around. So this is a J22 made in Industry or City of Industry, California. California's written out. We see that there's a pirate, and it says Jennings Firearms, Inc. We've got a slide safety. We've got the serial number on the back of the frame, and it's marked model J22. 22 caliber long rifles all written out. Now this one's in like a chrome with wood grips, and I'm not certain if this original version came in a different style or not. But this one is one of the most rare. I've only seen one of these so far. Now most of the original Jennings J22s came from this, or more like this one, they came from Chino, California. Now again, California is written out. We see the pirate, Jennings Firearms Inc. We still have the slide safety, serial number on the back, still marked model J22, everything written out. Difference on this one is this one has a black finish with what we call the black checkered grip. Now I don't have too many duplicates, but this one's sort of a duplicate. It's exactly the same as far as the markings and the mechanics. It's just that this one's in chrome with a wood grip. Now looking at this one, you might think, well, that's exactly the same. We got the pirate logo, we have Jennings Firearms Inc., we have the slide safety, Chino, California, marked model J22. However, the difference here as a collector is we see that it's marked Calwesco on the back of the frame, along with the serial number. If we look back at the family tree, we see that in 1985, Jennings Firearms sort of merged into Calwesco, and we go into that in more detail in the original Ring of Fire video. But what we think as collectors is that they were using up their parts from that original factory, or from that original Jennings Firearms, and they had to mark them Calwesco, so they did it on the frame as an afterthought. Now once they used up all those parts, they retooled, and now the frames have the pirate logo, Jennings Firearms Inc., but now they say by Calwesco, Chino, California. We now see California is abbreviated. We still have the slide safety, we have the serial number on the back, and they're still marked model J25. 22 long rifle all written out. Again, another similar one, but I have this one intentionally. Again, marked all the same. The only real difference here is we have the black checkered grip and the black finish. The reason I have this one in the collection, though, is to compare with this one, which is also Calwesco, but notice now it's Irvine, California, as opposed to Chino. So they moved factories. When they did that, they changed the grip style. They also changed the safety from the slide safety to the switch. We still have now we have the serial number on the frame here, and it's now marked Jennings J22. 22 long rifle is no longer written out. So that was one of the first major changes in the style and mechanics of the pistol. Later, we have one of my most rare pieces in the collection. This one's marked Calwesco, again, Irvine, California, but no Jennings Pirate, no Jennings Firearms Inc. On this side, it is marked Jennings J22, 22 long rifle abbreviated, and our serial number is on the back of the frame there. Now, jumping back to the family tree, we'll jump over to the daughter's side. So George's daughter and her husband, which was one of the guys that worked at Raven Arms, started Davis Industries. His brother John had worked at Raven Arms, moved over to Davis Industries, but in 1987 decided to start his own company called Sedco, and he built a 22 caliber pistol that was designed to compete with the Jennings pistol. He was sued out of existence in just a year by both his brother and the family. However, I think it's worth having it in the collection. And here's a Sedco SP22. Now you can see some similarities there. The real only differences I see on the outside of the safety is a little bit different in shape, of course, and then it uses a channel size or channel types. site. Inherently unreliable, but again, it has a place in this collection only because of its involvement with the family. Going back to the family tree, we see that in 1989, CalWesco kind of merged to become Brico Arms. And again, we go into more detail on that on the big video. But mechanically, we see that the Jennings Firearms Inc. by CalWesco in Irvine, California, and this Jennings Firearms, no more Inc. by Brico, Irvine, California, very, very similar. They both have the same safeties, they both have the same grips, and they're both marked Jennings J22 with 22 long rifle, abbreviated. I should mention, too, that in all this time, they've always had a cocking indicator in the back, which is basically just a pin that you can see through the hole there. The reason I bring that up is the next one in the line we see is Brico Arms. They moved to Costa Mesa, California. They dropped the Jennings Pirate and the Jennings Firearms.
All right, we're back. So, put this back on. Put this back over here. This little dude is a big boy. This dog is a big dog. So a lot of little dogs, they're babies. A lot of people said, this dog's too little to be on this show. He's a baby. He can't be on this show because he's pottying all the time. This dog said, I got to go outside. And then he went outside and did all his business out there. What a good dog. Here. Very good dog. All right, so now we can get back to the show. Turns out he had to go do both kinds of business out there. All right, so going back to here. All right. No, we don't need to put that in there. So you've been watching however many minutes it took, 7 minutes of Saturday Night Special collection we did back, this is 10 years ago. All right, dude, you want to go down again? You're going back down. Go run around, play with Melon. You're a good boy. You're a very good boy. All right, is the audio still good? I've been yanking on, you might not be able to tell, but I've been yanking on the microphone. So let's see, this thing says it's 10 years old. That means it was from September of 2012. September 2012. There it is if anybody wants to watch it. Ooh. That video has, does that say 82,000? 82,000 views? Cool. All right, so thanks for your patience there. But little dude, let us know. He had to go do his business, and then he went outside and did his business. So I believe I was talking about this show and the fact that we do it here on the YouTube. We do it on the Patreon. We do it on the newsletter. This is the Substack that we're looking at here. And then on Wednesdays, stay tuned to a show where we look at the Second Amendment over on Instagrams. So we got our news of the week we'll dig into here. And then I think I already went through the summary of what all we look at in the rest of this thing. So the GOP debate or the Republican debate was this week. I didn't really pay attention. So if anybody did, let me know what a good summary is, that it doesn't waste a lot of time. Just gets, maybe the top 10 things that are important about it or something. That would be interesting. I don't know if anybody does anything like that. Let's see. California and Illinois are the two states that have banned advertising, and that is something that has been not a priority, so it's been left on the table as far as like major initiatives from our side. And now we see that New York is introducing an advertising ban. And I thought there was a second one. Maybe I'm crazy. But so we can see that seems to be spreading as an unchallenged aspect of, the creep, the marginalization of guns and gun owners. We got the Hunter Ed Defunding, kind of another initiative to marginalize, to suggest that because of their perception of violence or ill or vice with the firearm, that in their lack of importance given to it, I guess. They, they don't see any harm in removing education. So, that's an initiative. So we know that the Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus, which doesn't sound like nothing, but they're responsible for like the Pittman-Robertson Act and essentially the government liaison with hunting, the hunting industry, if that's such a thing. It's not really more of like the hunting realm or community. So they wrote a letter to Congress. No, they wrote a letter to I don't know who they wrote it to, president, I guess, or did they write it to somebody? They wrote a letter though, and I guess that's what they can do. And then another organization of senators, I think senators, or else congressmen, said are called the American Wildlife Conservation Partners, also wrote an angry letter about this. But we have a national level organizations and we have ourselves. So, those who are hunters, usually people become hunters in hunting season and then they're hunters and then they don't think about hunting again for a while, which is kind of natural, I guess. It's like, you don't think about shoveling snow unless there's snow to shovel. But in this case, there's more significance to it than that. So I think that's a challenge / opportunity for us. With that, there's no meat to this. They're taking money away from hunters' education because there's no resistance to it. Some people probably think of it as some sort of weird-ass compromise, but essentially the reason they're doing it, in addition to the marginalization and the societal side, is because they want to use that money for other bullshit. So, you know what I'm saying? This is government money. This is tax money. Puppy, you already did your business. I'm not feeding you. You already had some biscuits. That's it. Let's see. Then we have New Jersey, that's the way it's pronounced, introducing microstamping requirements. So they've had them before. California has them now. They're looking at doing it again. What priority to give that? I don't know. But again, it's delusional and it's just not feasible. So for them to keep putting it on the table and not look like just, imagine if they put what's something that no one gives credit to anymore, some old science. It should be laughable. They should be embarrassed or at least understand that it's strategically useless for them to put microstamping on a table. And that's just a matter of awareness and education. Literally, you don't even have to be on one side or the other of it. Just let people know that it shouldn't be on the table because it's not a possibility. So, it's frustrating when we continue to see that one. Same with the Undetectable Firearms Act. We're seeing that one. What, did it get pushed through? I don't even know. Whenever we get to future here, not too far off here, we're going to be able to start summarizing some of this stuff for real. We'll all be able to keep track of this stuff on a more realistic level. But, these things that they're using against us that are essentially science fiction, and not the good kind of science fiction, but the Orwellian, like dumbass idiocracy mixed with Orwell science fiction, that's messed up. So we can remove that. That's a totally doable thing. A great opportunity for us to figure out how to work together with plenty of people that are good at messaging. Create a couple of hashtags. Back in my day, back in the 15s, in the 15s is what we used to call it. There was some really good hashtag advocacy being done because everybody was using the new Instagrams at the time and kind of migrating off of the feuding YouTube, Facebook situation with what was it called? Whatever YouTube's version of Facebook was called. I can't remember now. Somebody will know. Was it like, I can't remember what it was called. I can't remember now. But anyhow, there was a time when the hashtags were really effective, when everybody was kind of using the new platforms and kind of digging the hashtags were kind of trendy. Anyhow, so we got the next one in the list is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is forcing through a plan to ban the use of traditional ammunition on specifically National Wildlife Refuges. So this is one that I don't have that much of a issue with one way or the other, because I'm in favor of keeping some places completely off limits to everything as a country. So if we're going to hoard land from everybody in the first place, or like claim it and buy it, whatever the hell we did to get it, if we acquired it as a country, then I'm down for leaving some. We're better than other countries because we have natural forests. We have virgin forests. Go ask Canada about virgin forests. They got less than 5% of theirs. We still have it because President said back in the past, said, hey, let's not cut down all this big chunks of land when nobody cared back in the day. So I'm cool with leaving some areas, whatever, but not because of the gun stuff. So, you know what I'm saying? Like the gun stuff, fine. You know, don't just bully gun people or whatever. Don't force shit through. But at the same time, I'm down with leaving some wilderness. Now, wildlife refuges aren't normal things. They're national level. From what I understand, they're national level regulated wildlands that are part of, like in Arizona, at least the ones I'm familiar with, are on either they're on, Forest Service, I guess is what you say, Forest Service, or BLM. And BLM is Bureau of Land Management. So essentially the stuff that nobody wanted to make into a forest for any natural resource or historic or natural resource reason, like there wasn't some reason to turn it into a forest, but the government still owns it. That's where BLM comes in. So here in Arizona, there'll be places that are wildlife refuges, and that's because somebody came along and figured out, hey, there's some birds migrate through here. Because Arizona, think about it, like some bird coming from Canada down to Mexico, like all the geese and ducks and everything else. They got to stop where there's water, and Arizona has very little naturally occurring. There's actually no naturally occurring water, so they depend on stock tanks and stuff. So there's places along those migration routes that they've created National Wildlife Refuges, and they're essentially little islands in the forest or in BLM. So if people are going to have such a fit to say that you got to worry about every little thing that deals with that kind of stuff, then that's where you got to, decide where you're going to have your battles or what. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big, I don't know what to say. I don't have a big issue with either side of that one. They just need to take the guns out of the issue. Just do nothing in the National Wildlife Refuges. And then on the other hand, that just means you can't deplete natural resources there, because you can still go hang out there. You can still go camping. You can still use the land. You just can't hunt or mine or do shit like that. It's going to bother the critters. So, again, I don't know how many people deal with wildlife refuges. There's just not that many of them. And again, they're little islands. Some of them can be acres, dozens of acres in a 1,000-acre forest. All right, moving on. Some representative from New York, a Republican, is asking the governor of New York to halt the laws they got going on there, which targets law-abiding gun owners that further government overreach, and this is the part I thought was interesting, and as a poor stewardship of taxpayers' dollars, and will duplicate and complicate federal processes that are already in place. But I just put this one in here. One, we know that New York is getting wailed on all the time. And that's one of the things that they'll do is wail on New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and Massachusetts so often that nobody pays any attention to it. And since we have no national level scoreboard yet, it's really difficult to keep up with all these different things and the regularity or the pace that these things are happening, right? The kind of things you'd need to have a good defense, everyone knowing the playing field. So I put this one on here because I thought the poor stewardship of taxpayer dollars is often overlooked, but there's people that could give a shit one way or the other, right? We all know that. And they're allowed to not give a shit. This is a country where you're allowed to not give a shit. So if you don't give a shit about our issues, fine. But do you give a shit about your money? And that these idiots are so against us, that they're so single-minded against the gun, that they're going to use all of your money to go after it. And we're never going to give that up. I don't care what you think one way or the other. We ain't gonna. So guess what? They're going to keep coming after us. And that stupid tetherball game, that dumbass ping pong game we're trying to end, is costing everybody money. So maybe we have an appeal to those people who could give a shit and just want to see the government stop wasting money. And if nothing else, shining a light on it makes it tougher for them to keep playing these dumbass games on both sides, honestly. Anyway, so that's happened in New York, and the way that this thing, I didn't have a lot of time to format this, so it came up as 2 bullet points. Please ignore that. So next is an 18 million expansion project at FN Americas. So that's Fabrique National or something. America's Columbia, South Carolina facility. So is anybody talking about the $18 million expansion at FN? So FN, the gun manufacturer, at some point opened up in Columbia, South Carolina, and started their facility. I wonder if I have any of that posted on Minuteman. Yeah, that'll be a project. If you're listening to this show a year from now, this will be something we'll be able to elaborate with some data that we have on our websites. I just haven't put it, I don't think I have that particular map on the websites yet. But 2 years ago, I put together a map to show location, and then probably about 4 pages of one of the books I'm writing on the different relocations of the companies. Oh, it's also in the 50 states at 2A. That's where it's compiled also. So I know that FN came to the United States. Just can't remember, or it came to South Carolina. I just can't remember when. And I don't remember where were they in Connecticut first and then moved down to South Carolina? But I think it's cool to be able to keep up with the industry that way and keeping track of where the companies go. It's just a more interesting conversation than grip angles and red dots and garbage. So at least for me. So thanks to NSSF, a lot of this stuff came from NSSF. If you subscribe to their various emails, newsletters, you get a lot of this information. Links to more info in their blog posts and stuff, but they give you a good summary. So thanks to them for offering that. Then we've got, just to remind people, this is National Shooting Sports Month. Every August is National Shooting Sports Month. We don't have much time left, but you do have the weekend. If you want to take somebody shooting, it's always a good idea. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of different range specials and things going on to facilitate bringing new people to the range, just like what Tony Simon does with the diversity shoot. Let's say hey to the people that are out there. We do this show live with a little puppy co-host who goes outside because he's a big boy. But we appreciate the people that join us live. We know you're out there by saying stuff. So Wesley was out there earlier, and I'm in Arizona, right? Like I'm nowhere near Connecticut. So it'll be a while before I'm on the road again. Actually, hopefully not too much longer before I'm on the road again, but it'll be a little while before I'm on the road again. But I would get to Cape Gunworks for sure once I'm driving around again. Let's see. So then Ozzy joining us from Illinois. Welcome. Good evening. Agrizer. Why don't I say Texas? Are you in Texas? I'm just guessing. Roy. Missouri? I don't remember. And Woods is in Washington. Why did the hashtag get renamed? Oh no, you're saying why did that sign become that instead of the pound sign? I don't know. National forests are all over here, up in Washington, massive amounts of land. Yeah, there's a lot of that virgin forest I was talking about is up in your area, from what I understand, right? And south of you in California. We got redwoods. There's a bunch of countries that don't give a shit about that kind of stuff. For the fatherland or whatever, for the motherland, they would have chopped that shit down and turned it into communist toothpicks or whatever. Oh, I had to click the down arrow. G23 is out there. Good evening. I don't know. Are you doing shows anymore? Are you on hiatus or you call it quits on all that? I haven't seen your shows in a while. Defense Dad is out there. Good afternoon. talking about got new employee. So congrats. Oh, you're in Missouri? I knew there was some Missouri folk in here. Let's see. Roy is saying we don't have the microstamping requirement in California anymore. Oh, good point. And thank you for the clarification. So then I'm guessing that means you're in California also. So, but thanks for that, because we were just talking about the article that I had read, that the quote or whatever had said something about this was already happening in other states, so we're going to do it here again. So thanks for that. That's essentially dated by this year, right? I think this was a fairly recent one, but months ago, not like that long ago. Or I mean, not recently. It was a while back already. But okay, well, now we're going to dig into the 2A stuff. I usually start with the most Second Amendment related stuff, the stuff that does the most good for the Second Amendment each week. I'm not drinking coffee. I'm drinking some kind of antioxidant juice. It's pretty dang good. You get it at Dollar Tree. Wait. Yeah, the Dollar Tree. Oi or Wiggy, I forget what it's called. Some kind of antioxidant juice with very little sugar in it and some kind of Madagascar cherry or some shit. It's really super good. So anyway, I go with the most 2A stuff at the top. And you know what rises to the top? The cream each week is Suicide Prevention Saturday. So Brooke Cheney hosts the Suicide Prevention Saturday series on the Great Start Shooting School, her shooting school's YouTube channel. And it's the Suicide Prevention Saturday is a project that she's been doing for a long time now to focus on the concept that 2 out of 3 deaths from a firearm, the ones that everyone knows about and refers to, those numbers that the antis use constantly to suggest that guns are so dangerous and so violent, 2 out of 3 of those numbers. So when they say 30,000, what they're really talking about is 10,000, because 20,000 of those deaths are suicides. And Brooke has a consistent, brief, kind of not a very long show each week that's live to focus on mental health awareness and suicide prevention, to have better conversations with people on the other side who are standing on that and probably don't realize it, to enlighten and to educate and create awareness. And then, of course, on our side, to have more educated and more useful conversations with those folks and with ourselves. But then also ideally to help just normalize or destigmatize mental health. Just like if somebody broke their arm, nobody has a problem talking about it. You might not bring it up in conversation if it doesn't apply, but if somebody's going to go, hey, what's going on with your arm? I broke it in a car accident. I broke it playing jiu-jitsu or whatever. I broke it in a really heated Monopoly game. Well, if you've got something else going on, like, obviously things can go on in the world, mentally, relationship-wise, family-wise, health-wise, financially. People that shoot 9mm, can you imagine the kind of life choices they make? So, people end up in places that they don't realize, paths are going down. So, mental health awareness and destigmatization, all valuable things that ideally help people. But again, even if we can't help people individually, we can be more able to talk about these things. All right, so that's why Brooke is always at the top of the show. This week, the show is about the lights are never always green. Kind of makes sense, right? Next one is Maj. I almost never bring up Maj because he doesn't do that much stuff anymore that I see. So he's probably just doing real stuff. But at least on the internets and stuff, I don't really pay attention to the Instagram where he did most of his stuff when I was seeing him more often. But, it kind of dabbles with YouTube, I'd say. Plays with it once in a while. Needs it or uses it when he needs it, but then doesn't really hang out on YouTube as far as I can tell. But this one I thought was worth mentioning because he's bringing up 2 things that are important. The cartels, which everybody ignores because nobody lives 100 miles from them or less, and the news isn't going to talk about them. But the cartels are larger than most entities you know about. So if you think about national corporations, or you think about countries, or you think about nation states, you think about international non-state players, the cartels are among the most wealthy, the most violent, and the largest. And they're across the largest, one of the largest land borders, international land borders. And they don't have much problem coming across the international land borders and bringing people across with servitude, right? They bring people across, and those people owe them for a long time and have to do stuff for them. So we got a real issue there in lots of different levels. So that is always good when people bring that up, because it's ignored, brushed aside with the illegal issue or something. Again, no education on it, no awareness, so they can pretty much just let it not be brought up or shown in the spotlight. But then the other side of this is the choice of violence. And when you remove an opportunity from someone who still has an intent, you haven't dealt with the intent. You've simply changed their tactic. You've simply changed their method, or I guess their methodology, right? So this is a great point on a couple of levels from Maj. So check out Black Guns Matter and this particular video from Maj. It's a good one. Then we've got the attorneys out of Texas, armed attorneys, talking about a new decision for national reciprocity. So I've been super busy this week and I have not watched this, but of all the people that are going to talk about it, I'd probably watch this. It's probably pretty brief. It's 11 minutes long, but they usually don't try to suggest the sky's falling, and I don't really think they're trying to get you to buy anything. So I usually appreciate their brevity and their clarity as far as channels that focus on this kind of stuff. I don't know. Let me know if somebody can tell me that I'm wrong on this one as far as the national reciprocity, the recent national reciprocity issue. Bonus points. Who can tell us when the last time national reciprocity was seriously on the table at the national level? Go. It's easy. I can remember it 1,000%. It was killed off in October of what year? In October of what year did national reciprocity completely leave our conversation on our side? We left it laying on the side of the road like someone who just got sick of somebody on a road trip and left them on the side of the road. And that person was like, what the fuck? I asked G23 what's up with doing shows or whatever, and he said, I'll be back doing shows. He's been burnt out. And then trying to work on some health issues. I got a couple of those myself that, whatever you want to do with yourself, you can do with yourself. And then what's going to happen is your body's going to do what it's going to want to do, right? So you got to, when it decides to mess with you, you got to deal with it, I guess. But at the same time, we're all mammals or whatever. We all got our own things. Nobody's getting out of here alive. So Gunswater is also out there, and Chicago Mike the Shooter. Thanks for joining us. If I'm missing anybody, let me know. Say something. All right, so thanks again for joining us live. I'm kind of rambling tonight. Been crazy, focused on doing another big project this week. So I did get to watch some of this stuff, and then some of this stuff I definitely want to have in the list, but I didn't get to watch it all. But here's something I'm just going to go ahead and play, because this is only a moment or two long, and this is about the NAGA convention that happened a couple weeks back already, but we're still seeing the aftermath, which I like to draw attention to the fact that how much aftermath do you see from NRA show, with the caveat that isn't some fucking gear review, right? How often do you see follow-up to SHOT Show that isn't some freaking gear review or gun review? How often do you see a follow-up to the national level events that bring our community together to focus on either how the event turned out, what kind of community building was created, or what kind of collaborations, what kind of after actions do we do? We allow ourselves to live in this dumbass what's next world, when in reality we have found fundamental issues we have to deal with as a community, and we should be seeking organizations that foster collaborative achievement, I think is the way to say it. So NAGA, having their first convention after years of being like kicked in the nuts, essentially, not being able to do it because of this or that. And then the bullshit happened for a couple of years and just took it out from under them. Nobody could do anything for a couple of years. And then they finally got back and did this one for the first time. And they're just doing it differently than other people have done their stuff. So I like to see that alternative thing going on. And there's nothing stopping anybody from doing these like follow-ups that actually talk about it. But anyway, I'm going to let Phil speak for himself.
I just want to give a big shout out to everybody in the NAGA community, everybody in the 2A community, everybody in the Black 2A community, to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart on our national convention being very successful and coming to a conclusion last week. It was a great event. Saw a lot of folks I have not had a chance to talk to in a long time. A lot of tears of joy. It was a celebration and an education at the same time because we had some great sessions. I had some great conversations for the future of the organization with a lot of different people. So I just want to say thank you to our sponsors who came out in full force and gave us a lot of support and love. Thank you to all of our members that sacrificed to come to the event, to take the flight over from wherever part of the country you're coming from. But thank you so much. I will love you guys forever. You made it a lifetime changing event for a lot of different folks for a lot of different reasons. We had some tough conversations regarding the organization, where we started, where we're at, and more importantly, where we're going in terms of the trajectory. But it was a great time. So I just want to conclude everything by saying thank you. God bless, be safe, and respect.
Hopefully I don't get copyrighted for that. And then right after that, we have Professor Yamane, who was at the convention and filmed some of the pieces that he attended. I got the idea that there were quite a bit of presentations and I guess they're just called presentations, but like seminars, I guess, whatever. So since there was different things to attend, I think you got to choose, or I don't know if they were stacked on top of each other or not, but I don't think he attended every one of them, in other words. So I don't know how many of these he's going to do. This was, I think, the second in his series. And he does a good job. The only job I've seen of somebody showing around the place also, with full wide views or whatever. So that was on Light Over Heat, I think is what he's calling his channel now. Professor Yamane, South Carolina. Then we've got, whose channel is this? Oh, Crump. So Crump is talking about Iraqi veteran doing something. So I don't know what Eric's doing. I didn't watch this video, but I'm sure that it's interesting. So I don't know. Has anybody seen this one? I'm assuming from the title that Crump is talking about Eric getting a coalition of gun shops together to sue the ATF. And that's awesome because Eric is definitely the one to do it. And he's a big advocate of gun shops. And in the industry with gun shops, understands gun shops 100%. So that's cool. So then we've got Tiffany, the newest addition to Gun Owners America.
Hey guys, I wanted to introduce a brand new host, Tiffany from One in the Chamber. She'll be breaking down all those crazy anti-gun arguments you hear and how to respond to them.
Thanks, Ben. I'm very excited to help GOA members become better to it.
So what's the deal? Is One in the Chamber something that already existed, or is this something that they created and gave her the episode? I'm not sure. But here's the chunk of it. So that's the introduction as a short, and then here's the chunk of it.
If you thought the term assault weapon wasn't misleading enough, good news. Billionaire-funded anti-gun think tanks have spent tons of money coining the newest term to scare those who are uneducated on firearms. What is this spicy new term, you ask? Well, it's weapons of war.
And someone needs a weapon of war.
We should take weapons of war. Weapons of war. We shouldn't have weapons of war on our.
All right. So one of these examples was from 2020, and that first one, I don't know. So I'd like to see some dates on the examples.
Streets.
Hey guys, I'm Tiffany, and this is One in the Chamber, the show where we break down ridiculous anti-gun arguments to help you become a better informed firearms advocate.
So I'm always saying the national level organization should do more for advocacy. So I guess I'll shut up because it looks like they're bringing on a new
Whenever the
person
anti-gun
to do a
machines-
new series to specifically deal with these challenges. How do we have conversations when there's these trigger words? That's a good word. Trigger words that are used to, to mess with us. So we'll see how this goes. They had that one dude. I can't remember his name now. I met him at SHOT Show. And then they have this dude who introduced her. Now, is she taking over for him? Like, do this Gun Owners America only allowed to have one teenage kid at a time? Or, like, how do they work this? I don't know. Like, do they A/B testing youngins? Is this the next gen effort? I don't know. I'm not bitching. I'm kind of bitching, I guess. Like, can't they afford to have everybody on board? Keep doing Minuteman minutes and have that new dude, and then bring this chick, maybe even have like round tables every week. Just trying to get people work, I guess. So next up is She Fires. Big fan. And it's probably too late for her to show up for this one. But she joins us on Tuesdays all the time and on Saturdays, I think, too, once in a while. So she did a pop-up last Sunday and looking forward to her next one, which will be this Sunday. So I got a link to her last one there. Actually, this is last one, and then a link to the one that'll be coming up on Sunday. In fact, I'm an idiot, so I'm going to go in here and link to this one. Nope, I got them in backwards order. Link to this one, like this, and then grab that link, and then go to this show. Oh, I forgot to put a poll up, so I guess I'll get the poll going too. I'm just going to quickly reach inside this show and adjust some of the guts in there. It's no big deal. Look how slow my internet is, though. We can all take a moment to think about joining our Patreon, get me some fast internets. I'm thinking I've been doing a bunch of junk, and one of the things I did was look at cable modems, and my cable modem is literally the cheapest cable modem I can use with my cable company. Literally, like if there's a list, it's like in the last little segment of the last portion of the list. So I'm thinking about getting a new cable modem. Let's see. So I'm going to change. I had this linking to us, which is lame. So I'm going to link it to She Fires. I was linking it to my own show. Oh, man. She's pulling a Brooke on me. All right, well, sorry I wasted everybody's time. I was trying to flip it over to link to She Fires, but I got to tell her that she's got a setting on her channel where she's not allowing people to link to her channel from outside of their whatever it's called. So there's a setting in YouTube that you have to uncheck, I guess, if I remember right, and then it lets other people link to you like that. I don't know why. Probably just because they don't want weirdos being weird. So why doesn't she let me? If she wants, she can turn that off, and then we can link to her. But again, a live chat coming on at 3:05 on Sunday. What's 40 hours from now? Yeah, Sunday. So afternoon for us on Sunday, maybe the evening for you. So Gabby Franco was just on with Cape Gunworks this week as the 1 hour long format guest. And she did a video that dropped this week, kind of instructional, educational type video, rifle shooting drills for tactical training. So then we got our friends, Bullets for Bucks is in Alaska, I think for a month. So I think he said this is about 11 days in or something. And if I can find my mouse, watch this. That's a grizzly bear right there.
All right, folks, we're out here at the Kenai and Russian River. We had to use the ferry to get across. Gorgeous day, beautiful weather. Couldn't ask for better weather. Already had a huge red on and a small silver potentially, but foul hooked. You can see there was a grizzly bear. It's not even probably 70 yards from us across the river, but having a great time out here catching silvers and reds. This is, I believe, I don't even know, day number 11 or 12 of our Alaska tour, day number 2 of our salmon fishing tour.
So would you stay fishing there if there was a grizzly bear that close to you? I mean, that's rapidly flowing water, but I've seen a moose go across water that fast. And I've seen a bear swim across way bigger lake than that before. Way bigger lake than that. Like, we didn't know what it was. And then we're like, oh shit, that's a bear. Because it was so far away, it was just a dot. And moose and stuff will swim across a big lake. So, you know, you can see big ass shit swimming across a lake. It's not that unusual. But that would be nothing for a bear to swim across that river, is all I'm saying. Especially a grizzly bear. Like, if they eat fish, for crying out loud. They live in that river. I don't know if I'd have hung out there, unless there was a Jeep right there. I don't even think I'd trust a four-wheeler. But maybe he's carrying a 10 millimeter. I don't know. So G23 is saying that episode of Armed Attorneys is kind of clickbait because the case they're talking about will never go anywhere. The state will let it die in district court. Right on. So that was national reciprocity. I'm not a fan of national reciprocity. Oh, I put out there if anybody knew the date. G23 said 2020. No. Any other guesses on the date, or does anybody know? The October, for some reason I want to say October 10th or 11th is when it all went down. Bears running 35 miles an hour. Yeah, I'd imagine. I mean, they're essentially kind of like a dog and a gorilla mixed together. I mean, I'm not super scared of that bear or nothing, but I'm just a grizzly bear I'd be more scared of. And you're catching a fish right in front of it. That's the part that, you know, if I'm just standing there, all right, whatever. If I'm standing there with a Jeep, yeah, no problem. If I'm standing there with a rifle and a Jeep, yeah, whatever. I'll even call the bear names at that point. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm standing there fishing with my back to the bear or my side to the bear, and I'm pulling giant fish out of that lake for it, hell no. I don't know. So then there was this game show, and here's a picture of Ghost standing next to the board that Clover had made. Clover is spending a lot of money on his podcasts nowadays. So he had this huge board made, and he rented this big studio to have it lit and everything. And we only were on the show for like an hour, and they threw it all away. He wouldn't even let the people that wanted to reuse it for there was a church, a bunch of orphans and nuns that they asked if they could use it for a raffle they were going to do to give a bunch of homeless orphans a place to live. And Clover was like, nah, I'm throwing it away. Ruthless. Guns and Water saying 2016. No, almost in between of what you said, almost. It might actually be in between. It was 2018 that all that happened. And I'm pretty sure that's when it happened, because I was driving home from an event and all that went down. And it was like, what? Because it killed national reciprocity, and it killed, what's the other thing that it killed? The event was Vegas. When that stuff happened in Vegas that they say what it was or not, happened, and that was in October, right? Because I remember driving home from a thing, and it all was happening as I was driving. And then it killed two things, national reciprocity, and that's the second bonus question today. We'll consider this a tactical quiz. Oh, guess what's coming back? Wait, what's next Wednesday? Is next Wednesday the 30th? Guess what's coming back on next Wednesday? The tactical quiz, probably. Yep, the ASA, or wait, HPA, Hearing Protection Act. Yep. Oh, I'll leave that on the screen. I don't know. Oh, crap. Wait. No, I'm thinking of last week. I was going to say I don't think there is an alert from or an update from American Espresso Association that I missed this week. It'll be coming up soon, though, because it was, I think it was this month that I was remembering from last week. So this is Clover doing a game show. We had a game show. He asked me to help him out, so I was on there. This is 2A cops this channel that I chat about once in a while, and it's two cops from San Francisco who retired or left police work and moved from California, and then now train police officers, I think, or something to that effect. So they're still in contact, and they still work with and around quite a few police officers, but in some sort of like skill building, up training, training type of situation, not a on the job type of situation. So they still get a lot of contact with police and get to hear about their opinions on stuff. So it's an interesting channel to watch, and they're certainly pro 2A. So the video is about the city where one of them or both of them worked, and how that city is just making it very difficult for new police to be hired, so they're not. And then I think he suggests the idea that if the police if there's a situation where the situation gets too bad, if the circumstances create a situation that gets bad enough, then the police may essentially just all call in sick one day and let the city see what it's like without the police. And I don't know if he said there's like precedent for that. I don't know if there is, but it's just saying if it gets to a point where that happens, then what are you going to do? If it's happening, were you prepared for that? Is that in your realm of things to prepare for? And it's an interesting theory. You don't hear about, I don't know if I've heard that one ever, actually. Like if the circumstances got to a point where the rest of your infrastructure, but no police. Because a lot of times, if you think of like an earthquake, there's no infrastructure. You don't have anything like gas or electric or any kind of emergency services. But if it was a union type of thing or a job condition type of thing or a whatever, then I don't know if I've ever thought about that. His video, I don't know. Watch it if you want. Tell me what you think. I'm putting it in here because I like the channel and it's an interesting topic, but I'm not necessarily agreeing with everything he talks about in there. What I am agreeing with is everything Foss does. So that dude does the mouse parties. Used to be on Wednesdays. It got moved to Saturdays for his reasons. But this was episode 62 this week. Another interesting episode. This week, if everything goes according to plan, it'll be the alternative show. Every other week, it's a different show. And this week, it'll be the overnight. The overnight typically has a topic. I don't think he has posted anything about that yet, or am I missing it? He may have, and I missed it. Pensions evaporate, and then you bet they'd stay home. Yeah, exactly, right? That's the kind of stuff that, politicians screws around and, I was investing in my brother-in-law's solar factory or something, and then, they broke all the glass and ran out of there. And that was the police pension money. That'd be the kind of stuff that you'd hear in a movie. All right, so then Gizzard does a show on Fridays. This one is the one that happened just now. So they were talking about some stuff in there, and here were some of my points. I always like to write them down because for the keywords. Let's see, so they were talking about something about the red flag laws. Is that what they were talking about? I forget the topic, but my point was that let's see, taking away the gun only is a distraction, right? So the anti-guns position is that guns are so bad we need to remove them from society. So, okay, we disagree on that for sure, but let's say that you're somehow successful, that you sway our position and we agree with you and we decide for the sake of the children and because you're so well at science and everything, we've decided that we're going to take all our guns and turn them into plows. So then we're going to all go into backyard gardening. So all your gun owners who used to own guns now are harmless, right? So what about the people that are bad people? And if they don't have guns to steal from gun owners anymore, then do they just become good people, or do they get a bat or a knife or whatever, right? So the gun only, taking away the gun only is a distraction because it doesn't make the person harmless or less angry. The red flag law is a last grasp tactic to associate guns with negative situations. So I think the part of this red flag law thing is that it can be put on the table because they haven't had a challenge to it yet that's final. Some of their other tactics over the years have had resistance that was valid enough that they never brought it back again, and they haven't had that happen with red flag laws yet. But again, you create awareness in society that it's ridiculous to assume you can take just one implement away and make everyone nonviolent, and at the same time you're taking away the rights and the ability for people to defend themselves. So now you've created just more harm happening from bad people and more good people paying the price. So in order to, we don't have to live that to understand that can happen. We just have to verbalize that to people who aren't thinking about it from that angle. Anyway, so I think in a way to make lemonade out of the issue that we have on the table is that it's on the table, right? The media is already poking at it. That's what I was thinking, is that the media is already shined their light at it. So this is the ideal time to address it. Their single political agenda and their lack of awareness as the whole. So, is this insistent focus on just guns, and the insistent that gun owners are so bad or that we're so stupid that we can't see that it's the guns that are the problem? Is this single political agenda of theirs is that a consequence of their lack of awareness, or is it something else? Right? Is it that they're getting paid off by the other side of the lobby, whatever you want to call it, the Bloomberg lobby? And that's where I think who challenges that? When do we challenge that? So there's a violent person. The anti-position is take away one item, and the antis are focused on, then it's over. Or I should say, there's a violent person, and the anti's position is taking away that one item that they're focused on, the gun, and then boom, it's just over. Now there's no more violence or anything. And again, that's delusional, because essentially if you take away anything from a person, they're just going to go to the next thing. We're tool users. So it's ridiculous. Going back to what Maj was saying with what's going on in Mexico, people that aren't paying attention to Mexico would think that bombings and stuff are like only happening in the Middle East. But do a Google search on how many politicians die in Mexico and from how. Right? Like, how are those politicians dying? And to suggest that that doesn't count because they're not a first world country is a tactic used by people who want to handpick data for their agenda. So when you've got a nation of people like you've got in Mexico, where they've taken away the access of the normal person to have firearms and defend themselves, you get crime just taking over whole regions and towns and areas, and getting to the point where they act as inside, states. And then, so the last part here is there's a violent person. Okay, I already did that one. So I'm going to keep moving. That was my points that I just elaborated on from whatever Gizzards' conversation was there. Now we're moving on to the radio shows. Toby's been on a lot because he's been taken over for the Grace Curley show. She had a baby, so she didn't feel like doing a radio show, I guess. And Toby took over her show for weeks and weeks now. And it sounds like today was the last day. He'll go back to his regular twice a week guest hosting or co-hosting with her on Tuesdays for the 2A Tuesday segment at 1 p.m. Eastern, I think. And then they do their rapid fire radio show from the Cape Gun Works gun shop in Massachusetts on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. So two great shows worth listening to. And this week they had Gabby Franco on, as I mentioned. And I've lost my mouse. Okay, there it is. They had Gabby Franco on for an hour, for the second hour of the show. Speaking of guests, getting into the military podcast military interview section of the weekly wrap up. I put Charlie down here because he had a Vietnam veteran on for the ride for show number 178, Robin Bartlett. I only listened to a chunk of that one, but it seems pretty interesting. So Charlie typically interviews Second Amendment activists, but when he first started doing the show, if you go back and look at his first dozen or 24 episodes, he had quite a range of people on, and he would bring up Second Amendment sometimes and stuff, but he was kind of getting his feet wet and learning how to do the interviews and bringing people on who he respected or valued their insight to kind of get them going. And even now, he'll have instructors on, he'll have advocates on, he'll have industry people on, and then entertainers and all kinds of people. So that was a good one. And then we've got a couple from the team house. First off is I don't know if it's the second or more second return appearance of Gary. This guy is Delta Force and from the Marines, and then he went to the Green Berets, and then he was in Delta, and then he went to the CIA. So you can imagine he's done a lot of interesting things, and he's one of the calmest dudes here. Let's real quick let you get an idea of like what this guy is, how he talks.
Is the first time I heard people talk about this whole Delta Force thing, and I'd never really heard of it. Now my Sergeant Major Park was on, what do you call it, green light team.
So real laid back, real soft spoken, and he's done some amazing things, some really interesting things. And the more you see people who have done these things, the more you realize they're not that different than other people who've had success doing things. So then we get this one, another one from Team House. This one was on earlier today, right before Gizzard's show. And this was with analyst talking about Ukraine and Russia. Pretty interesting. Getting insight from people who were trained and were successful at gathering intelligence and presenting that for various uses, right? Like those people after the fact for news, valid, impartial news are great sources of data. So this was a show like that about the Ukraine situation and stuff that led up to it. Ed's Manifesto is an awesome channel. He does, or I guess Ed's Manifesto is his Instagram, but Ed, okay, I knew his name, but I don't think I'm drawing a blank. Ed, I'll think of it when I'm not trying to think of it. But he does a podcast down in Tijuana. He brings people down to Tijuana. And then Byron Rogers, a friend of his, who does the Protector series. They do some seminars and training, combined training stuff with Mike Pannone and some other people. I think he does it with ShivWorks also. So very high level, what do you call it? Like, I guess just personal protection type instruction and training, like everything from hand to hand, wrestling around, but like a cop would, or like wrestling around like somebody in a fight would, not wrestling around like somebody trying to make points or trying to learn a new technique to wrestle or whatever, like somebody trying to not get killed by somebody who's trying to kill them kind of wrestling, which is ShivWorks. Ed Calderon, now I remembered his name. Thanks. KMA says it. Hey, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. So, Ed Calderon does anti-hostage, I guess, anti-kidnapping, like how to get out of restraints, how to get out of situations where you may be detained or being held against your will. And anyway, Byron Rogers is the personal protection. He's a bodyguard. He's a Marine bodyguard. And I haven't watched this podcast yet, but I tell you what, like I say, I'm working on a big project. And next time I go to do some batch, a portion of that big project, I'll be listening to this one for sure. Looking forward to it. I think that we're coming up on the end here. So this is the one I talked about on Wednesdays during the day. We go live just before Keep Gunworks, so we kind of do a opening act for their show, and we do similar to what this is, except on Instagram, showing all the cool stuff that's happening on Instagram, except over here on YouTube, to kind of cross the streams and bring Instagram over here, at least for a Second Amendment focus. I want to say thanks to our Patreons, the people that make it possible for us to do this stuff. We wouldn't be able to, literally. Like, I would not be able to do it. The Patreons pay for the servers that keep all the websites going. Most of the stuff that we've done has been designed to be archival. We create data, information, we gather and post, correlate and analyze, and we've had live conversations. We've created most of the data live in live shows. We've gone over it and evaluated it live. We've referenced it in live shows, but it's there on the web for anybody that wants to use it. It's there for Google and other search engines to find it and index it. It's there for others to use for research and verification and whatever they're going to use it for writing. So those things are possible because the servers that make that happen. There's 3 big servers that are paid for each month by those Patreons, and then the software to be able to do that stuff is a little bit more. Well, no, it's a little bit added to the pile. The servers are the big money. But then, there's other costs. There's always other costs, right? Some of the backups and some of the other things. But the time that it takes to do any of this stuff, we don't have a lot of it. So we really do appreciate the Patreons that make it possible for this to all happen and to stay happening. And if you're interested in watching it get bigger, it's about to get bigger because I've been able to do some stuff. So once I'm able to put even more time to this, I'm hoping to get more people on board because we're going to be taking it to another level. But thanks to the people that have made it possible, that have been there along the way with their financial support, essentially subscribing to what we do on a monthly basis. Most of them are subscribed at the $5 level, which is essentially a cup of coffee. We have some people that subscribe at $20, which is like taking us out to lunch once a week or once a month, I guess. And we appreciate that because that accumulates and it comes up to enough hundreds of dollars to pay those server bills and to pay for that software and to allow me to experiment. If I'm going to try something, most of the time, if it's like a $20 thing, I don't have to think about it. I can try, some software to see if it works or try a new thing for the calendar or something like that. I haven't been able to do that this year, but in the past, that's something that we've been able to do so that we've gotten to where we are with the projects and stuff, the Almanac, the Minuteman University. Like I say, the technical quiz will be coming back where we focus on Second Amendment and gun-related stuff with a game show live, weekly. But this is the end of this one. We got one more thing, and I'll just play this as our own video, so I can't copyright myself. And this is a little deal for a little puppy.
So maybe your little dude's been partying too hard, and now you need to carry him around a little bit. So that's why you might want one of these Tomcast slings. What I like about it, on first inspection, this is still brand new for us, so we're still figuring it out. You've got a kind of a fleece material. It's a very lightweight material, essentially what a sweatshirt is made out of. And it's a very wide strap of that same material. And it's essentially a hammock or a sling. So little dude can step into it. And I've seen people on videos where they lay it down on the ground and the dog just walks in. This guy didn't have any room to do that, and he hasn't figured out how to do it yet.
He's not supposed to be walking, or he can't walk, and he can just be in this sling.
Essentially a hammock is the word I'm looking for. And once we pick him up in here, we've got him against our body.
It's a burrito hammock.
There's a place here to tether his collar or his harness, and he's just sort of in here as you'd expect in a sling or a pocket, and he's super comfortable. He likes it. It's kind of awkward to hold it up in front of the camera, but you can see for him it's great, and when it's against the body, he's nice and quiet, and you can see all around. There's some snaps on the top, so if he was in here the right way, then we could snap the snaps, but he's always just sort of in a hammock. He's not
enclosed like some other things. And what I like about that, there's no zippers. Let's pull them back out of here. There's no zippers. And it's so lightweight because it is essentially just a big taco or burrito wrapper, I guess, for him. And because it's such a light material, I'm thinking I can wrap this thing up, take it with on hikes in a backpack, and when the little dude gets tired, I could carry him for a little while till he's ready to go again. And this isn't so much to carry around as it would be if I had some of the larger ones. So this is the Tomcast dog carrier. Hope this helps. So there's a little commercial for that Tomcast thing at the end there. The link if you want to go look at it. That'll be it. That'll be the end of today's. If I missed anything, let me know. Like I say, I've been abbreviated the last couple of weeks with the distraction of a giant project I'm working on, but that will come to an end at some point. Sooner than later, more than likely. And be able to get back to 100% focus on this show. And like I say, the new, season 3 or 4 of the tactical quiz. So we'll probably bring that back on Wednesday evenings, maybe a little bit earlier. Maybe we'll start quirking some people with it. We'll see. Maybe do some polls somewhere. Oh, you know what we were going to do is talk about the calendar. So why don't we do that? We just talked about the Patreons and all the websites that they keep running. So let's take a look at one of those websites. It's called guncalendars.com. And, we're in the last-ish week of August here. We just posted today about the Thompson Company. Auto Ordnance was founded today, back in 1916. Then we got this Sunday, if you're in the Massachusetts area, in Quincy, Massachusetts, where it turns out the reason I did it here is that's where the representative is from that started this whole mess. But there's a HD 4420, which is a pretty heinous accumulation or a pile of gun control in one big bill. And they've succeeded in creating enough resistance to it to have it be paused until later in the year. But in order to gather more support and focus on it until then, there's a bunch of people who got together with Gun Owners Action League goal out of Massachusetts to have a 2A Freedom celebration on Sunday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. So if you're in the area of Massachusetts and you're interested in showing up to effectively a rally for a specific issue, but really, to help practice getting together to challenge bad law, then Quincy, Massachusetts. I have no idea where that is. So, again, I always say it's nice of them to name the whole town after that TV show. It's a pretty good TV show. What is this, Tuesday? This Tuesday, you can thank a Marine, or I guess a Marine Reserve. So it's the Marine Reserve's birthday. They're going to be, I don't know if that's true, about 103. 1916, I don't think that number's right. That's probably a copy and paste error. But the Marine Corps has a reserve for lots of reasons, for keeping people around who know what they're doing. You get specialties, you get people that are just really good at their jobs, you get people that have experience, you have people that know an area of the world or know people in a region or know people in an area. So for those reasons, you want to have a reserve force that think about World War I and World War II, then think about World War II and Korea, and then think about Korea and Vietnam. So those reasons, Vietnam and other things, but there was a pretty big gap there between Vietnam and anything that happened to where there was essentially a pretty big gap there. But when you think of those other large campaigns that the United States has been involved with, having that reserve allowed people who are competent and had time on the clock to come back and essentially teach or do on-the-job training for all the new people that are going to be coming in. And, really does work well. And the Marines work well, period. So, imagine their reserves. I think I seen something pretty good today. It said, oh man, how did it say? I guess I can't remember it. Something to the effect of, it was like, it was, what the hell was it? Was it somebody sitting there? Or I think it was just words. But something to the point of, was it like raise your hand if you've ever gotten so drunk that you and your friends created the world's most feared fighting force or something like that, and then had the Green Dragon Tavern on there, or is that what it is? The tavern that the Marines were grown from. But I don't know where the reserves came from. Does it say on here? The reserves was established when Congress passed the Naval Appropriations Act of 1916. It's responsible for providing trained units and qualified individuals to be mobilized for active duty in a time of war, national emergency, or contingency operations. I don't know what that means. So then we get Skynet on the same day, this Tuesday at 2 a.m. Back in 1997, at this point, it's history, is when Skynet became self-aware. So that is when Sarah Connor named this date as the day Skynet became self-aware. So Sarah Connor says it, so it must be in Terminator 2. Is it in Terminator 2, or did she say that in Terminator? I can't even remember anymore. So maybe this week is a good week to watch the Terminator movies, since this is a good time for, in case Skynet decides to actually kick in, to know the history of our new overlords. We got the 31st coming up, Ken Hackathorn born. So you see Ken Hackathorn a lot on the Wilson Combat channel. But let's take a look at what we got written down here for Ken. In 66 to 71, he was in the 19th Special Forces Group. 19th and 20th were Guard units in Florida and Colorado. So I think that was Colorado? I don't remember. Then he was a small arms instructor. And then deputy sheriff in Ohio. In 1975, he meets Jeff Cooper, becomes a gun sight instructor. So Jeff Cooper is the guy who invented gun sight. So Hackathorn becomes a gun sight instructor, one of the first traveling firearms instructors with Masada Yub, back in the early days as gun sight is being created and civilian firearms training is a thing for both. I should say handgun firearms training for personal defense and offense is being developed at Gunsight and others. And then the first traveling instructors are Hackathorn and Masada Yub. Then we got NRA police firearms instructor, FBI certified firearms instructor. In 1975, he wrote a column for Soldier of Fortune. He's been a writer for Guns and Ammo, for Combat Handguns, for Soldier of Fortune, and for American Handgunner. In 1976, he was one of the founding members of IPSC. And then in 1996, when everybody got sick of all the games, he was one of the founding members of IDPA. So he had a very interesting run. And then in 2016, he started Aztec Training Services, where he started essentially going around being a firearms instructor and teaching people both tactical, get off of me, defensive stuff. From what I understand, I've never taken his training. But I'm assuming he can also, I didn't put any of his shooting in there, but when someone founds an organization, they probably shoot pretty good. So I don't know all of his shooting accomplishments, but somebody who I've seen him a couple of times, and I said hey to him, but I never had a conversation with him or anything. but like at Chacho or whatever, I'd be like, oh, that's Ken Hackathorn. Hey. And he's like, hey. But anyway, pretty interesting dude. Had an interesting life, and like say now he does some videos over on the Wilson Combat channel. Gunswire saying Jeff Cooper, the father of modern practical pistol. That's a great way to say it. Thank you. And then also on the 31st, we got something interesting. Ken Hackathorn being born, right? But then we also have the Sullivan Law. So the first CCW law in the United States that was specifically a CCW law was in 1911 in Sullivan Law. It was in New York City. Sullivan was the name of the politician, and he created the law to bully his rivals. So people that he didn't like, he wanted to use this law to tell the police to take their guns and then essentially ignore his friends and let them carry around their guns. So it required licenses for New Yorkers to possess firearms small enough to be concealed. Possession of such firearms without a license was a misdemeanor. Carrying them in public was a felony. So that's how it all started, and that's essentially everything before that is racist as shit. This was the first. It was sort of racist because these were immigrant, whatever, I kind of want to say mob, but like immigrant gangsters people, and they were just they were electing politicians, but they were same from the gangs or whatever. So it was kind of racist, but it wasn't institutionalized racism. I guess it kind of was, but I don't know. So anyway, the ones before it were way more against racism. So, but again, that's the Sullivan Law in New York. What most consider the first CCW law, the first concealed carry. I guess the way to say it too is that the laws before that would have been possession of guns, period. And this was the first, like, you can't carry the gun around. So just taking a look forward, on Friday will be the anniversary of Texas issuing CCW permits in 1995. So there was a gap there between the olden days and 1995 when Texas, you couldn't carry around a gun. So at first they said in 1993, you can carry a gun. And then Ann Richards vetoed it. Then they did it again. And then Governor Bush signed the first Texas concealed carry, which went into effect in 1997. And then they began issuing CCW permits. Of course, the big issue is, or the big deal is, you can't open carry in Texas, which makes no sense. So, whatever. But that's the anniversary of it. And then you got Saturday of next week, Percy Maxim. So there's 3 different Maxims. Hiram Percy. What's the other ones? Anyway, 2 others. This one, Sir Hiram. This one is Hiram Percy, and the other guy is, did I write it in here? And then he has an uncle who created, anyway, so Hiram Percy is the son of Sir Hiram Maxim, right? And Hiram Maxim is the guy that invented the Maxim machine gun. His son is Percy, and Percy patented the suppressor, but he also invented the muffler for cars and shortwave radio. Actually, he didn't invent shortwave radio, but he invented the Shortwave Radio Club, or the Association of Radio Operators, which is essentially ham radios. And he was one of the initial people to start using radios to just send messages and use them as a communication thing. And then he also founded the Amateur Cinema League in 1926. So that would be an interesting documentary or something to see about the son of the machine gun guy. And of course, the machine gun guy time traveled. He could move, or at least he could hyper travel from one continent to another, and he time traveled or something. So there's all kinds of interesting stuff about how he invented his machine gun and then booked it to another place through his time portal. It's a whole story. You can go look it up. Let's see. We've got a bunch of people jumping in. Welcome. GNG. What's GNG? Let's see. So then, the Pittman Robertson. Remember we were talking about the congressional group of congressmen or whatever they're called? Let me click on the right one. The congressional, come on, it's not written in here. I guess not. So anyway, the thing started in 1937, and essentially it takes some money from every gun and every bullet and every bow, and I think in every arrow, and puts that towards research into surveys and inventories, which is super important, introduction into new habitat, improvement of habitat, acquisition of habitat for public ownership or public use, hunter education, and then construction of target ranges. So, most of the big state ranges are Pittman Robertson Act money. Oh, guns and gadgets, guns and geeks. Oh, that makes sense. Gotcha. So yeah, welcome. So did Matt just end his show? He shouldn't be corking me. He knows that this is my time slot. So we're just going over the calendar from next week. I'll jump ahead to the week after, since there is a bunch of stuff going on. For some reason, I have it in the calendar here twice. I have a glitch. But the USCCA convention, or expo, I guess, is coming up. And then that's in Wisconsin. And then the Veterans Top Shot Invitational. So that's at Cape Gunworks in, where are they? In Massachusetts, but Cape Cod, right, is the name of the town. So check that out if you're in that area. This is essentially a shooting match at the range. That's annual event, and it's to benefit two veterans charities that are memorial charities for people that have passed. So that's the stuff that's coming up on the calendar. Let me jump back, see what everybody's saying. People saying E-Honda also. I haven't watched E-Honda in a while. I guess I'm not getting the alerts or whatever. It probably unsubbed me. I'll have to go sub him again. But does he do his show on Sundays or Saturdays now? But thanks for jumping in, everybody, and saying hey. And we're going to, was I going to do something else? I was going to be doing a topic of the week, but I just didn't do one this week. Maybe I'll go back and use my comments from Gizzards' show. This whole thing about, here we go, that we've got this back and forth, right? I don't know how long you've been in this. You're going to have to answer this one yourself, right? How long have you been in the game? How long you've been paying attention to what's going on? Like, there's cycles, right? Like, they use their playbook, and they use these tactics. Sometimes they use them and it's effective, and sometimes it's a waste of time. But they have this book of tactics, and some of them are played out. Some of them they can't use anymore. And they use occasionally a new one, but very rarely do they even put a new one out there. Every once in a while, they'll attack an existing one a different way, and then that becomes a new one or something, without getting too far into it. They only have so much that they called to, and it's because there's this fucking ping pong game. It's because there's this tetherball where they don't need to do much more than that. They do something, and whatever it is they do, we gasp, clench our pearls, and run around doing whatever we're going to do about it. When we could end this by just not playing their freaking tetherball game. Now, I'm not saying let their bullshit laws go through, but we stop their bullshit laws all the time without effort. We need to start holding them accountable. We need to start changing the situation so that they don't feel that they have the opportunity over and over again to use us as a political distraction because they don't care about the consequences. And they don't need to care about the consequences or care about our position. They just need to know that they gotta quit fucking with us. And we don't need to do that by attacking them. We do that by educating the people that they're misleading. The people that hate our guns and that hate us only hate us and our guns because of what they're told. And it's because they have no experience with anything we do. We don't have to take them shooting. Take some people shooting if they want to go. But what we need to do is just let the people in the middle know that guns ain't like the movies. They're not inherently dangerous as much, any more than a baseball bat or a kitchen knife or a rat poison or a cigarette lighter or a gallon of gasoline or some medication that grandma's taken. I can go on and on. Keys to the car, a swimming pool in the backyard, second flight of stairs, an open window on the second floor, like broken glass. I could keep going, right? Like there's no more danger in a firearm than there is any other dangerous thing. And there's been a manipulation and there's been a distraction that both sides are responsible for in this back and forth. So taking away that distraction is how we end this. And when we do that, when we accomplish that, we do that in front of everybody. And the same way that the potheads were able to get the pot laws changed across the country, and that had a ripple effect. What'll be the ripple effect when the rug is taken out, the foundations are taken out, the legs are taken out from Bloomberg's tactics, and Bloomberg becomes ineffective? People will see that it is possible to work together while not walking in lockstep, and it is possible to resist that influence and that manipulation. So I look forward to that. We see a lot of indications of that. We see a lot of successes and people working towards that. Obviously, failures, we learn from failures. We get challenged and we get resistance to future failure by attempting things. So, I see that happening. And then we see the weak and the tired and the not able, the poor, or those that ran out of money along the way. We see them drop out. And again, I started this whole thing with these cycles. Like, how many times are you going to see people start, stop, fail? Which ones are you betting on? Which ones are you observing? Which ones are you patting them on the back? Which ones are you making them lunch, right? Which ones are you sitting at the kitchen table and staying up all night working on something that makes it possible for that project to move further? What level are you interested in doing stuff? I've lived through eras with people rolling up their sleeves and every single night efforting because there was the comment periods and trying to urge people with every influence they had in the internet, like to urge people to get on there and be part of that. And then successful times like that, failures like that. I was there for the M855. I was there for the all of them, I guess, so the ones that were neglected, the ones that were ignored, the ones that were thrown at us. And that's just the comment periods. Then we've got the testimonials at the state levels for things like constitutional carry or even concealed carry. I can remember when we first started doing live chats and shit, when there was 11 states. I just posted the other day, or I think coming up in the calendar here in a few days, we're going to see the anniversary of Missouri's concealed carry. No, constitutional carry. Missouri constitutional carry, state number 11 in 2016. Think about that. In 2016, I was posting on Instagram a repost of Hashtactical, for all the people that remember Hashy. Hashtactical had posted that Missouri had just done constitutional carry, state number 11 in 2016. So if I'm remembering everything right, what is that? Another 15 states later in 5 years, 3 states per year. there's been a lot of effort in that time. Hashi has come and gone and come and gone. The organizations he was linked to, exists. So there's a lot going on. So these patterns. How long you been in the game? Are you paying attention to these patterns? Are you paying attention to these cycles? Are you participating in them, observing them? You don't have no obligation. Nobody's shaming you or guilting you. Do what you're going to do. Just pay attention to what's going on. You're not sitting in a seat. You're playing on the internet. You're in a world with a bunch of other people, and you're a voter. You're a United States citizen. You have the ability to vote. You have the ability to influence other people. You can have conversations or choose not to. You can choose to influence. You can choose to, listen. You can get information and move it around. You can archive. There's lots of stuff can be done, or lots of different ways. So we'll end it with that. That's our thing of the week, our focus of the week. Let's see. Shall issue was a big one. There's absolutely cycles. Remember to check your basement for rodents. I don't have anything to worry about there. You have to represent Ohio. One of 2022's constitutional carry states. Right on. Is this the actual E-Honda? Right on. Yeah, you brought a bunch of people over. Were you just quirking the show? Or are you about to go live? Or is he live right now? All those three things could be happening. If I was going to go somewhere, I'd probably go by Hondas before I got to Colorado, or Massachusetts, just because I don't even know what Hondas is. I think I used to know. It's probably about 1,800 miles from here. So one long ass day or a couple of 3 days, ideally. But I really want to get up to Dragon Man's. It'd be awesome to get up to Dragon Man's again. I haven't seen his museum in a couple of years now. I know it gets bigger all the time. But he's got his machine gun shoot and kind of end of the year blowout coming up in September. Let's go take a look. September 17th, but I don't want to say the wrong date. September. Hey, look at that. When you squish it, it turns off of being a calendar. I didn't even know that. So if you make it too small, too narrow, it'll just stop being a calendar and it'll be a list. That's pretty cool. All right, so Dragon Man's September 16th and 17th. So Honda's out there. I'll throw a double back at you to heads up to. Oh, you know what else we can talk about in Colorado is somebody donated like way more than $1,000 worth of chairs to Guns for Everyone down in Colorado Springs. They do the free CCW classes. Something like 10% of the CCWs in Colorado have been through Guns for Everyone. And they've had a couple of locations over the years, but they, their chairs have gotten older, I guess, or whatever. So some student had commented that she had some better chairs, and she followed through, or whatever you want to say, and brought them a whole slew of new chairs. So they have like a classroom's worth of fancy new chairs. To me, they look like the kind of chairs you'd have at school in like a college or maybe a high school class. For the kind of class where not like the kind that your desk is attached to, but just for sitting there. So they're kind of like that wire. They're nice chairs. No, I'm just about to end. I go live at midnight. I guess I've been going blabbing for 2 hours here. I'm just saying, send them a link. But I don't really. I just blab. I go over the week stuff and wrap it up. But I've got a project I'm working on, so I actually should have ended right at the sharp at an hour sharp. But I've just been blabbing tonight, and thanks for joining in, everybody live. It's probably why I've been blabbing, interacting with everybody. But maybe next week or another week for sure. It's not like I'm against it. I literally have a thing I got to do before midnight, and now that means I have, for me, an hour before midnight. I was kind of hoping to have 2 hours. So that's my bad time management, but I didn't expect you to jump in. Wesley's saying, what days are your shows? So he says Sunday and Tuesday. Right on. Like I said, I was just saying, I think I might be subscribed to you or whatever, because I don't get any. I didn't even know. I thought you were still doing your shows on the other thing, because I haven't seen anything come up for Honda in a while. Anyway, so thanks everybody for joining in. I'm going to throw up a link to our store. Stay tuned. I'm actually going to build a new piece to the store here coming up to facilitate the tactical quiz, so that there's all kinds of cool ways to get stuff like prizes from the tactical quiz. I'm going to essentially put up like a section of the store that'll be, let's say, wink, wink, the prizes, so that they're there and you can look at them. But then that way the prizes can be more interesting than what we've had in the past. All right, with that, we'll throw that link out here and see you tomorrow with maybe Clover and Tony with Ask Gun Questions. Oh, wait, and Honda said he does his show on Sunday. So stay tuned for Honda's show on Sunday.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Cheat. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.